No way. Oh no, that is dirty.
Putting is the most important part of your golf game if you want to lower your scores and indeed that handicap. In today's video, we're going to help you do just that by taking the wrists out of it. A lot of people think that putting should involve wrist. A lot of people think putting shouldn't involve the wrists. Chris, you've had a lot of people in for lessons this week,
Yep.
and I've played with a lot of people in Pro-Ams that have had this exact problem. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so 3 of my lessons this week came in and they're struggling with pace. And obviously pace for the everyday golfer, for the mid-handicap golfer, even for the single-figure handicap golfer, is normally the main reason why they're 3-putting, 4-putting, hopefully not having more than 4 putts, but if you are, it's often because of pace control, maybe not so much your direction. And again, that comes down to obviously the only thing that is in control of the club or in contact with the club, which are obviously our hands. And what we do with our wrists is why we are using hack motion today, because obviously in putting, what I would like to see is a little bit of wrist movement, but obviously quite minimal. We're not trying to get a lot of this kind of action, but if I stand on a putting green or watch a putting green on the day or any day, we'll start to see that's the main motion that we see. That's the most common motion, and we'll see people get onto this kind of putt.
No, that's gone long.
And that's what well, I struck it well, but obviously I'm now double the distance. They don't know what they've done wrong there, so then they start to say, all right, well, I probably just need to get a little bit slower into it, and obviously don't I? Was a little bit quick through that, so a lot of wrists. And then we have the classic, the one that nobody likes, the D-cell. Everybody says you play with your playing partners. How many times me and James hear people out with their or playing partners and they say, oh, Brian always D-cells on his putts, but it's because of that motion.
And I think it's really interesting the fact that we're going to talk through the hack motion figures in a couple of moments' time and see just what your wrist should be doing and exactly what they shouldn't be doing. I've just holed, I think it's fair to say, Chris, you were testament to it, a worldy putt to beat Gary Martin on this very green a few moments ago.
No way. Oh no, that is dirty.
If we watch that put back, distance control was absolutely perfect. But why is that? Because when we're using the wrists to the right level, so I like to think the wrists are just a little bit of a release of the putter. So if I take the putter back inside and then if I let the putter drop, there's a tiny bit of a release there to let the toe come over. I'm not overly trying to release it. I'm certainly not setting the putter back like I would with a full golf club, but I'm not just trying to take the wrists out of it completely and use the elbows, because that wouldn't work. So we're trying to control dynamic loft as well as controlling face angle, which Chris is going to talk you through again with the hack motion figures. But realistically, I like to think if your ball position's right and you have a nice solid stroke that just allows the putter to release there, you can see a lovely roll end over end over end. I'm taking that putt all day from 15 feet because tour average would be about a 10-20% make ratio from here.
Yeah, from about 12 feet, yeah, that's exactly going to be the case. So we're not necessarily going to say that, well, this is going to help you start the ball line, it's going to help you with your pace, and that's where you're going to start to see your scores come down. But obviously one thing we don't want to see is obviously a lot of rotation as well in this. So a lot of people start to try and guide that putter online, or like James said, they're trying to take the wrists out of it so the elbows start to come off, and that's where we start to see
straight through, straight back.
Yeah, we see people try and go straight through and straight back. Oh, straight back and straight through even. But then we start to see the dreaded figure of 8. So we start to see the putter taking control. It's not working on the arc, so we then can't square it up, and then we can't control the pace. And if we can't do that, obviously we're going to struggle with putting in general, and that's what we don't want to do this year. Obviously it's just before the season, and comment below, guys, how many of you have ever been for a putter lesson? Because obviously a lot of people go, right, I'll go from a driver lesson, I'll have a driver lesson every single week all winter, so my driver's great on that first day of the season. But you probably don't go for a lesson on this and then you don't know what to practice. But we want to think as a good thing for you to do, if you're somebody who struggles with your paces, to have a little bit of soft play in those wrists, but the butt end of the club here always wants to be pointing towards your belly button. So in the backswing here, even if I was doing a short putt, we can see the butt end of that club is pointing towards my belly button. On the way through, I'll let it release, and that will also then point towards my belly button. You do that on the putting green and start to think, okay, are you somebody where this is pointing out to the right, out to the side of me here, it's not at the belly button. We've over-released that putter, and you'll see there's a lot of cupping in that left wrist. Alternatively, what we do see is a lot of people get the good old forward press straight away, not pointing towards my belly button. and from there that is outside of my body, and from there you've got to make a lot of adjustments, so you've really got to start to basically try and manipulate it. And James has done a drill here for you.
Here's one I made earlier.
That's a fancy tee.
It's a fancy tee, but it's also a fantastic drill just to think, right, if I'm on the putting green before I play, this obviously lengthens the putter out, and as Chris mentioned, if that tee peg is visibly pointing at my belly button the whole way, you can see that if you bring in the camera, guys, so we can see the camera actually moves in, so the club face works around on the arc there. So if you remember the Visio putting mats that used to be so prominent on tour, and a lot of people, I still really enjoy practicing with them, if that tee peg's pointed at the belly button, my wrists have a little bit of soft play in them, as Chris mentioned it earlier, then that's a really good way of just thinking, right, is that putter moving on the correct arc for me? Is it moving the correct way around? And at the end, the putter looks closed actually to an arc, but the tee peg's still pointing at the belly button. So now, Chris, should we have a look at some of the hat motion figures, some from bad putts we hit and good putts we've hit, and we can discuss how that works?
Yeah, exactly. So the first one you'll see on the screen now, we can see that there's limited rotation. So you can see, again, we're in the realms of it's maybe deviating a couple of degrees, and this is the thing, it's only a soft play in the wrist, because how many times we see people strangle the putter, they have no wrist play, and from there they don't really have control on their backstroke and through stroke. But obviously the one that's on screen now, you'll see, we can see there's a drastic change on the way through, and that is from a putting stroke that has finished just like this. So it's finished with that a lot of cup in there. It's something what we often see when somebody goes short back and hits through that. We see a lot of excessive movement in that wrist, and this is why this device helps us, because it's feel and real. How many times we see people and we say, right, you've used your wrist there, and they say, no, I haven't, I've just rotated nice, I've just took it back and straight through, but they haven't.
Absolutely, and it's amazing to think the similarities when we talk about the weekly hack that we're doing every Saturday and the different clubs throughout the bag which we're trying to utilise it with, and the similarities are very, very amazing, because if you think about how the wrists work in the full golf swing and how the club face opens and closes and how we can't control that dynamic loft, the putter's exactly the same. If you can't control the club face or the dynamic loft, the putter does has loft on it. Usually they have around 3 degrees of loft on them. So if you then add dynamic loft to impact and the face is open, the ball's going to jump on you. You're not going to get a true roll. It's obviously going to go right of your target, so your start line's not there. So it doesn't matter where you've read the putt. You need to be able to start the ball on line. You need to get the ball rolling as quick as possible. That's going to allow you to get the distance control. Then the 3 keys to good putting: distance, start line, and
your green read. So guys, if you can do that, start to think about your practice this year, ready for the season. Don't overlook it. If you need a putting lesson, maybe go for your first ever putting lesson, and you'll be able to get some kind of feedback. Because what we want in the season is for you to be able to go, okay, if you're not putting great, you're able then to be able to go, right, is it my green read? Is it my pace, or is it my technique? If it's your technique, you might need to recheck. You need to go back to your lesson notes if you've had a lesson and start to understand what you're doing, because there's nothing worse on that first hole when we have a putt just like this, and what we start to do is knock it 8 foot past. We miss that one coming back, and what do we all think? We all think it's going to be one of those days. We're not going to get our handicap down, and we're not going to get good at golf.
And one thing you never see, chuck us a ball. This is literally just come. I wouldn't be able to. I'm not signing for Arsenal, Chris, am I? But one thing you'll never see is if I say, right, guys, just play me a putt with one hand. So left hand only. You would never see someone who goes this way. You would always just let the putter rotate around the arc, release it nicely, and start to get a nice roll on there. You're never going to see someone one hand only do that either way. So for me, that's a fantastic way of potentially practicing. Tiger does that drill all the time. Get your wrist working properly, get your putter working properly, get your game working properly for the new season. Guys, thanks for watching. Smash that subscribe button here on Get Good at Golf if you want to do just that, ready for the 2024 season. And apart from that, we'll see you all back on Monday, where we're going to talk drivers so you can hit it a long way and then hole your putts, because you've listened today.